At that time, I clearly believed that anything which moves will be autonomous.
You think that should be the most important factor for the team?
Being unafraid? Yeah, absolutely. Team has to be fearless. Not everything you will be able to do, but you have to go in with the thing that if somebody can do it, I can do it too.
Yeah. Which country do you think will be the largest market for you?
I think US.
US.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't associate US with a lot of manufacturing, but I think US manufacturing will be close to India's GDP.
Any suggestions you'll have for anyone who's getting into the B2B game with no experience?
Yeah, I mean, just hire salespeople who have done it.
Hi, I'm Apoorv Shankar and welcome to The Hardware Story, a podcast wherein we decode how to build hardware ventures. The next decade is going to be huge for manufacturing in India, and we need more founders building hardware ventures out of the country. Hardware is a tough space to navigate in, as we have longer iteration cycles as compared to software or digital products. And the idea of this podcast is to make it simpler for anyone venturing into building their own hardware product or a company and learn from the experiences of founders who've built deep tech and hardware ventures before. Our guest today is Saurabh, the founder and CEO of Ati Motors, a Bangalore based company which builds its own autonomous robots for material movement in factories. Welcome to the show, Saurabh.
Hey, thanks, Apoorv. Thanks for having me.
Let's just get started with some background about you. How did you start the company, and what is the company in general about?
Sure. No, I mean, as you succinctly put it, I mean, we make autonomous robots which move material in factories. That's what we are about. We have our robots running in US, India, and Southeast Asia already in one of the best factories in the world. So that's kind of what we do. We would eventually like to be the autonomy partner for factories. Whatever moves in the factory, hopefully, is powered by Ati autonomously, right? So that's kind of what we are building. My own background is not so much hardware. Before Ati, I started Ati 7 years ago, and that's when I got into hardware. But I'm a 2001 graduate from IIT BHU. I did my mechanical engineering, but was not a very good mechanical engineer. Frankly, I, like many students of my generation, went into software.
Even this generation.
In this generation, I find maybe some of the younger engineers, I get to learn a lot from them. But yeah, at least I went to a software company at that time, became a product manager very quickly. So was not even so techy on software.
Yeah, so this was in 2001. 2001 to 2002, you became a product manager.
That's right.
I heard about this designation in maybe 15, 16.
Is it? Okay. Yeah, so that way I was lucky. I think I wanted to be an entrepreneur in even when I was studying, and I tried a failed startup when I was in college also.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was very clear I want to do something like this, and I had a couple of job offers as many students do in campuses, and I figured which is the smallest company which wants me, and I'll go there. I'd not heard of the company Talisma. It was a great company. I think the founder was a product manager in Microsoft, and had this vision that we want to do products out of India. So he had really set up a team from scratch and really understood that product development requires a certain mindset. So we had mentors from who had like long years of experience in Microsoft. So was very lucky to get into that environment, and they trusting like a very young fresher as a with that kind of responsibility. Yeah, so that was very good. And even then, the next job, my mentor actually became my boss in that next job. I was the first employee in that company. We were making our own databases, very deep tech startup, by the way, that one, right? I mean, we were doing our own P2P layer for sharing personal information. It was like a personalized Facebook.
Oh.
Is what we were doing, which kind of lost out to the public Facebook. Nobody cared about privacy. So, and I figured as a product manager, you figure early on that the product's not going to succeed. It got acquired because of its tech strengths. And then I started a company called Neve Technologies with a friend of mine. And we were thinking at that time trying to do a B2B SaaS in 2005, way too early.
Oh.
Couldn't get funded. Became like a product development partner for SaaS companies in US.
Okay.
That's what I did. And there it helped that we knew how to make products. I would have worked on like 200 products in the 8 years, right? Doing usually version ones for companies. Did that. 2013, we got acquired by Publicis. So they had a brand called Razorfish. They wanted to enter India. Wanted some company they didn't want to build from scratch. So I became CEO for Razorfish Technologies. It was a good experience. I was like a CEO in a Fortune 500 group. So a nice experience. 2013 to 16, that's what I did. So we used to handle all offshoring for their 15, 16 offices worldwide, plus handle the India market.
Got it. And how large was the company when it got acquired? Like
We
number
were
of people?
around 250 people.
250 people already. Oh,
Yeah,
very
yeah,
nice.
we were around 250 people. So I understood scale, I understood, in fact, but there also I had to learn a lot. I knew products very well by that time, didn't understand services. Took me 5, 6 years, it was even harder than products actually, for me at least. And it took, by the time I learned, then I sold the company on how services work. So it's also very deep as I mean, people poo poo it, but it's also a tough business separately.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure.
So
I
it
don't know.
took me time, but it's good. Now I have good understanding of both those businesses. But now, I mean, Ati has been a hardware product for the last 6, 7 years. So I kind of bring a more product manager's hat onto how to do this space. That's kind of how it got. So I had a, so I figured after NEEM, I really wanted to do something multidisciplinary. I had some money. I thought I could take larger
And
risks.
when was this, the acquisition?
Acquisition was 2013.
2013.
Yeah, and then spent another 3 years as the CEO. So at that time,
Oh,
I
right,
started
right.
thinking
Yeah.
also, and I was like, okay. Initially, I started learning by doing a couple of angel checks in hardware startups. So that was my first. I thought, okay, let me learn from people who understand it.
Nice.
So I did a couple of angel checks in a few hardware startups. So that got me kind of going. Then I did some test projects just to figure out, do I understand this thing? Just generally fun projects, basically. There's one fun project I was working on, which was to do like an anti-microwave. So new type of kitchen appliance. So like, see, microwave is this appliance in your kitchen where you put stuff and it comes out hot.
You want
Now,
to
is
make
there
it cold?
something where you could put like a glass of hot beer and it comes out cold? I figured making things cold is a very tough problem. Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it was a good. I think it was a nice problem. It was exciting and
Nice.
very tough actually.
Very consumer problem.
Very consumer problem though, yeah. And I also figured, see, consumer problems are exciting, but I don't understand B2C. That also I understood. So I didn't want to like probably take that business all the way through. And then this during around 2017, this autonomous vehicles was a big deal. Um, I mean, at that time, I clearly believed that anything which moves will be autonomous. Okay, so that I think recently Jensen has talked about it, but I think
Yeah.
I picked on that trend a little early, that everything which moves will be autonomous someday. And when I went deeper into it, it seemed the right thing. The DARPA Urban Challenge was 2007. It had been 10 years since then. A lot of companies were trying to commercialize it. As soon as we started, by the way, we figured that this is not going to happen on the roads.
Got it. Commercialization of the autonomous vehicles.
Autonomous vehicles things, right? So that was happening. Tesla was saying every 6 months it's just happening, just happening.
Yeah.
Waymo was there. There are dozens of startups, frankly, right?
I
Uber
think-
had a team,
I think
everybody had a team.
When Tesla Autopilot first came out with the video, that sort of blew my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I realized, okay, now this is a big shift that's going to happen soon.
Yeah, absolutely. So there, it was a wake up moment. I'm sure. So I got excited. You saw the potential. You saw the technology is almost ready, but not there.
Yeah.
And then the product manager in me said was, if I can control the product and the scope, only then I can ship. Now, when you're on the open road, you can't control scope at all. Okay, so I said maybe people with billions of dollars can do it. I'm going to do it with like low millions of dollars. Not going to happen. So B2B and that was kind of my preference also. So I think it went in that direction. We figured, okay, we'll do industrial and also smaller. I mean, jitni auqat hai, kind of money we had, right? So we'll say we'll
तब भी काफी थी.
so I put in my own $1 million to start,
Yeah.
which was, I figured by doing those small angel checks and the things, I figured that hardware is not something you could do a 100K seed with.
True. 100%.
Right, so a lot of people were thinking, okay, software you can do with 100K. Yeah, this also you do with 100K seed. I think there you have to take a larger bet. Okay, in hardware, it's not a 100K seed unless it's a small consumer electronic or like you could do a prototype with Raspberry Pi and Arduino. That's a different, but it's a very small class of problems. Okay.
Yeah.
Any serious hardware you need to do, so I said, okay, at least I will not shortchange myself by doing this kind of a thing. No spray and pray. We'll put the right kind of money. At least then I'll fail for my own incompetency. I'll not blame, oh, there was not enough money. There was not this. I hate excuses. I said, okay, if we have to fail without excuses. Okay, so I started with that kind of a thing. But even that, compared to the value-based startup, not so much money. So you have to still do with, limit your scope in some senses, right? I mean, you can't do an autonomous vehicle on the road for sure even for $1 million. It's too little money.
Yeah.
Right. So That's how kind of got started. Nobody around me knew how to do this. We just created a team which was unafraid to take on the challenge. It's very difficult to put together the team, but we did it.
Yeah, yeah. And
And
you think that should be the most important factor for the team?
being unafraid,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can't look at everything and say, oh, how will you do this? This is
Yeah.
too tough. I mean, team has to be fearless.
Yeah.
In I mean, kuch bhi hoga, one should say kar denge,
Hmm.
right? That attitude should be there.
True.
Not everything you will be able to do, but you have to go in with the thing that if somebody can do it, I can do it too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's a very good trait to have.
Yeah.
If someone can do it, it can happen.
Yes.
Once you have the feasibility analysis closed.
That's right.
Done.
Absolutely. So if it is possible, we should do it.
Exactly.
That's the way, right? I mean, laws of physics should not be in your...
Exactly.
Yeah, they should not be hurting you. And it should not be something which requires some magical technology somewhere. That's about
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Once you figure there is no magic involved,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think one should go for it.
Right. I think what a lot of people also do is when they take up, when they hear about a problem statement and they have less background in that, a lot of things seem extremely difficult. Like, for example, things like what NASA was doing earlier was like completely prohibitive. You wouldn't even think about it. But when
Right.
their company started out, and now, of course, Indian companies are building their own satellites, launching rockets, things like that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you have to actually dig deep and try and figure ki whether it's something which can be done or not.
Yeah, yeah. And finally, I figured. I mean, yeah. I mean, all things are possible. Nothing is so difficult. You have to just think from first principles, get into it. So there is some mindset that is required, and that mindset I had to pick up also.
Yeah.
And it was good. I think the team that we put together helped with that mindset. They were very unafraid, deep on technology, etc. And then I could combine with the what to make. And I also learned. They also learned, and I think we quickly made like a first prototype in roughly around 10-ish months.
Yeah, if you can explain the general trend in automation in factories, or how was it before your machine would come in, right?
Okay. No. So it's completely manual. Surprisingly. So everybody. So I was also surprised. Right. My prior was that okay, maybe in India labor is cheap, etc. So things are very manual.
Yeah.
Japan, US, so everything must be already done with robots. Maybe we will have a better robot or something like that. It's manual everywhere.
Okay.
Okay, so there are AGVs which are popular.
What's
So AGVs are basically these guided vehicles, autonomous guided vehicles, which have magnetic strips or markers, etc., using which the robots are
Line
moving,
follower
line
types.
following
Yeah.
robots, basically. And that's a 20-30-year-old technology.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
I mean, if somebody has seen that serial, The Americans, that FBI male robot is there, right, which is going, it's part of the plot also. That was
Yeah.
kind of the first AGV
Yeah.
which was deployed
Line
early 80s.
following robots are products which college students typically would build.
Yeah.
right?
No, but
Now-
making anything industrial is tough. So that
Of course.
college student thing is not the same
Of
thing.
course, of course.
Yeah, but it's a old technology, right? And that's, I think, reasonably entrenched. Not so much in India, but outside India there are enough of them. But they have their limitations, right? I mean, firstly they're slow. Also, they can't be dynamically routed, and there are enough of these things, right? So AMRs, as this space is called. So we always thought of ourselves as autonomous vehicles, but then we figured, okay, we have to align our terminology with what the industry understands,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is autonomous mobile robots.
Right, and that's why the name Ati Motors also started.
That's right. That's right. So Ati was like the Sanskrit Ati. We were like, okay, we would make extreme stuff,
Yeah,
extreme
limitless.
engineering, limitless. But we thought of ourselves as autonomous vehicle, industrial autonomous vehicle kind of company. But then obviously you have to align your terminology with what the customers understand also. So the space is AMR, so to speak. But even in the AMR space, almost everybody uses AMRs are very popular in warehouses. They don't have good penetration in factories. Okay. So factories are so see, all the warehouses are very similar. I mean, there are rows of racks, and there are
Right.
basically paths which are straight lines.
Right.
Okay, you go like this or you go like this, right? So that's how these are. So if I blindfold you and put you in a large warehouse, you won't be able to tell which company it is. Okay, you have to read the label to figure out. So it's much simpler. You have you can optimize in one place. It'll work everywhere. No two factories are practically similar.
True.
They're very different in terms of their environment. Also, in factories, there are enough use cases which are between plants also. Not all factories are one big hall,
Correct.
which is what warehouses are.
Right.
A huge hall with a docking station, docks on one side, racks on one side, and some pre-processing, staging areas, etc. Right? That's what typically a sorting area or whatever, right? So that's a typical warehouse. But a factory is a very complex
Correct.
place. Paint shop may be different from a machine shop. There may be a heat treatment area. You may machine something, deburr it, polish it, grind it, surface finish it.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right? Like series of things that you need to do.
Right.
And lots of material movement happens in all these places. And especially in discrete manufacturing. Manufacturing is also very deep. Okay, so within that, discrete manufacturing is where we operate.
Right.
Okay, because in discrete manufacturing there are these discrete steps which I described. So material has to be moved in all these places, and typically is done on trolleys.
Okay.
Right, because the parts are of their own unique shapes, etc. Aesthetic parts should not touch each other. Right, like a bumper is there. You have to keep bumpers on a very long trolley such that they don't touch each other. Right, so the trolleys are specially designed with ergonomics, etc. Now, I mean, typical robotics guys, and that's where I was hesitant to use the word robotics internally. All the robotics people typically have a mindset that we have made this robot. Now, the environment always remains constant. Okay, and my robot will perform this same operation say a million times, but everything else is constant, and I'll do it with great efficiency, accuracy, etc. But you have to give me, like, I'll tell you the parameters and you have to do the same thing. Typically in robotic arms, that's what you will do, right? I mean, you will, nothing changes. Piece will come exactly to the micron level, and you pick it, place it at the micron level on the other side, right?
Yeah.
And with autonomous vehicle, the thought process is that the environment is very dynamic.
Right.
You don't control it, and still you need to perform. Right. So I think a lot of roboticist mindset guys who started making AMRs, they made it with the same mindset. Now that mindset works in labs and to some extent in warehouses. There also it's challenging, but it does work. But factories, it just miserably fails because factories, firstly, huge dynamism, and also in many places these robots would go like under trolleys, lift them, take them, but that would require you to modify the trolleys. Now, who's going to buy two robots and modify 100 trolleys? Nobody's going to do it.
Yeah.
The trolley design has been made over 10 years.
Correct.
on like some 100 kaizens which have happened on those trolleys. Okay, nobody's
Yeah.
messing with that.
Yeah.
We had this mindset that we want to go and start serving the customer by making him change nothing.
Okay.
Okay, so we had this zero philosophy that
Got
we
it.
will go to our customers and they should not have to change anything to use our robots.
Got it.
Which happened because we would just go in. So we made this autonomous tugger, which would go in. All we need is like a custom hitch. We would hitch to the trolley and then we would take it from one place to another. So it's being done manually, and now
Okay.
we would do it autonomously.
Nice.
So that's kind of became how the first product was, and we were always in almost every case replacing either somebody like pushing a trolley or driving a vehicle and doing it manually.
Got it.
And we would then start doing the same stuff autonomously.
Got it. But trolleys are also standard for different use cases, or no?
Not at all. Every trolley is different, and that was another thing, right? So we would handle all those differences, right?
Okay.
So some trolleys would be 2 meters long, some are 1 meter long, some carry 400 kg, so we carry up to 1 ton. But you sometimes you'll carry 3 trolleys carrying 300 kg
Okay.
instead of one trolley carrying 800 kg. All kinds of combinations, right? There'll be 6-wheel trolleys, 4-wheel trolleys, but we handle it all without making the customer change anything.
Got it.
Yeah,
Very cool.
yeah.
And how many units you have currently deployed? Like, how large is the company in terms of operations?
Sure. So we have above 100, units deployed across and more than 30 very large customers. Like we're talking of all of our customers are like $10 billion plus kind of companies. We're talking of like a Bosch, Samsung, those kind of names,
Okay.
or TVS,
Okay.
right? So really large customers. So we have very marquee customers. Each of them at a very early stage with us. Okay, I mean most of these customers have hundreds of plants.
Right.
Okay, like the and I can quantify it for the listener. I mean the probably the largest companies, a single company owning the most number of plants would be around maybe 350 to 400 across the world. Okay,
Oh.
right, and there will be small companies with 6-7 plants also if you are a single country organization. But even a multi-country OEM-ish kind of a plant, say a truck company, would have like 20 plants around the world. Right, so that's kind of the range.
Got it.
And everybody is at a very, I think, early stage of adoption of these kind of robots across the world. So we
Right.
managed to get into a space where we were reasonably early, but adoption has started. People were looking for this solution, is what we figured, but their existing solutions were not doing what they wanted the products to do.
Got it. And in one factory, how many units can you deploy, you think?
So again, different kinds of customers. So like an OEM plant, like say a factory of a four-wheeler plant, could absorb like 100 robots.
Okay.
Right. But say a smaller plant, tier one plant, which is making say a component or say a controller for a vehicle or something, that may take only 5, 6 robots. Right. So there's a big range.
Got it.
Like a tire plant may take around 20, 25 robots.
Okay.
Right. So we are very good in tire plants, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. And tire plants is big in India?
Very big.
Oh.
India is a very fast growing exporter of tires all over the world.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we have some natural strengths in tire for various reasons.
Would do you think tires are comparatively easier?
It's actually a very tough space where no one else does anything apart from us.
Really?
Yeah.
No, comparatively simple in terms of for your deployment of units.
So for us, yes, but I'm saying it is generally not an easy problem.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's also a tough problem. I mean, the environment is full of carbon and sulfur. It's a dirty-ish plant, right? Making tires is not a cleanish industry. So it is actually a very tough environment, but we seem to do very well in it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And before moving forward, you're manufacturing all your bots here.
That's right. Yeah, we are in the factory right now. Absolutely.
Awesome. Nice. Now, deployed units we discussed. How much investment you've raised so far? You mentioned that you've also put your own money.
Yeah. So totally around would have raised close to 17 million.
17 million.
Across various rounds. We did our Series A round last year of around 11 million.
Oh.
Yeah.
Awesome. And this is majorly to deploy further units, geography expansion.
Yeah, I mean, only after the Series A we could do a serious US GTM or a Southeast Asia GTM, for example.
Okay.
Before it's too expensive to do it otherwise.
Right.
So we could do it post our Series A. But before that, I mean, we were also surprisingly successful deployments in India, which I had not expected that we would be successful in India. But we are success. I mean, so India is a larger market than I had anticipated for us also, and it's becoming an interesting way. There are a lot of multinationals even in India, so we are seeing that it's not a bad thing to start in India with a brand and then go global with them. It's also a great GTM strategy. But if you would have asked me like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I would have said not happening. Right? We will just maybe pilot in India and then go outside. But it's a serious market.
Which country do you think will be the largest market for you?
I think US. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't associate US with a lot of manufacturing, but I think US manufacturing will be close to India's GDP. Okay.
Really?
Yeah. So US is huge on manufacturing. As a size of their economy is not so big.
Yeah.
But it is
because what we were trying to do is we have sort of planned and set up a factory in the US as well. So when we were earlier discussing with folks to partner with, we were figuring who is there to build products in volumes and things like that. And we figured most of the folks there are doing either some very heavy machinery which is strategic to defense or military, something like that.
That's pretty big. Yeah.
Something aeronautical, aerospace, things like that. But high volume manufacturing, we couldn't really find a lot of people.
Automotive is there.
Automotive is the I think only thing there, right? Which is slightly different from what we do, of course.
That's right. So your kind of stuff all goes to China practically, unfortunately, unless it's small volume. By the way, you will see it medical devices in California.
Medical devices there.
Yeah, right. So it is similar volume as you. You are a kind of medical device, right? Consumer medical device. California is huge.
Yeah, we've been in touch with a few medical folks anyway.
Yeah, so that is there. Automotive is pretty big, as I said. Consumer appliances. Furniture is still there. There's some very odd industry. You will still see in US branded trolleys being done. Because that's my forte, right? We do trolleys, etc. In India, you won't find a guy doing branded trolley, by the way. Okay, you will always have this window fabricator kind of a guy doing trolleys. The worst trolleys you will find in Indian factories. Okay, completely unengineered. But US, you will actually have branded trolleys, very good. They're innovating on trolleys here still. Like locking mechanisms, braking, etc. I mean, this is kind of manufacturing which still happens in the US.
Wow, surprising.
Yeah. Plastics, very precision plastics, etc. Where your molds and all, you will see that happening in the US.
Oh.
Yeah, because I think the volumetric freight thing becomes very expensive, and there's not so much labor. I mean, the cost is of the mold typically, and mold is a high skill thing rather than high labor thing. So it's a plastic injection molding is a big industry in in US even today.
Okay,
Yeah,
got it. You don't think of US as a manufacturing place, but then the volume is superb.
yeah, and
Nice.
the base is so big of the economy that a small percentage is a very
Yeah.
large number.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So now moving to a separate section, a lot of hardware startups end up focusing a lot on IP. Not end up, but strategically may place a lot of focus on IP. And there are a few government grants which you also get if you are building your own hardware products, especially in the biomedical space. Did you happen to get any of such grants, or did you file your IP for the product that you've been building?
So we didn't apply. I mean, I shouldn't say we never applied. I mean, a desperate startup will apply for everything, but it wasn't a focus area for me to get government
Yeah,
grants. By the way, I usually feel see anybody you deal with kind of becomes your partner, and the only advantage which a startup typically has is speed.
correct.
So if you take partners which are much slower than you are, then your speed suffers. Okay, for whatever reason, even if it's a grant partner, then they'll make you do so many filings. You have to do this report, that,
That's
blah
true.
blah blah.
That's true.
So I mean, even if it's a small percentage,
Yeah.
it's so slow.
Yeah.
Your weighted average will still be a little slower than what you
Yeah.
could be.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
one has to be, I think, be very careful in choosing partners which can slow you down.
True,
Okay,
true,
so I usually try to avoid working with the government. If the government says they want to help me, I'm a little, please don't. Okay, government help is dangerous for a startup, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. Depends on the stage also, because you anyway had started off and you
Yeah,
knew from the background you had, you knew that speed is
is
the
important.
most important part for
That's
any
right.
startup, right?
That's right.
Typically, when we start out, younger founders, they wouldn't have this
Yeah,
wisdom,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
They would take up any grants, and honestly, there are. You are right. A lot of government grants are slow. A lot of these bodies, and the way the money flows through them, it's still not completely very well structured. So they
Yeah,
are trying to figure on their own, how do we make this efficient.
correct.
A few of the government grants are still good. I remember we got a grant called Elevate Karnataka.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They are
Yeah,
actually one of the best
they are
ones.
one of the best ones.
Yeah,
They are
that's the only
super
one I
fast.
would take if, yeah,
Agreed.
they've structured it very
Very well.
well. I think Priyank Kharge did it long ago, so
Yeah.
I think he did a great job,
Yeah.
and the team he had. So I think they really got it right,
Agreed.
right? But that's an exception.
True.
But they are also right. You get what, 30, 50 lakh rupees.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's better to raise in angel. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
kind of money.
You
You
can
can do
do
that.
that. You can do that.
I get that. But usually that's what my
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
preference would be, rather than going after that. Just go and get 30, 40 lakh rupees in angel money. It's much
Yeah.
better, much nicer.
Yeah,
Angels
yeah,
will add some more value, hopefully,
Hmm.
typically, than what the government will be able to do.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think for initial support, then the government grants are great. I think slowly the speed is also going to be better.
of course.
But I agree. When Angel comes in, it's much more support just than just the
Yeah.
money part of it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's also there. You did you file any patents IP around
Yeah,
this?
we I mean, we keep filing. It's not as if I mean, there's like one patent or two patent usually, but I usually think of patent as a right to do strategy, rather
Yeah.
than, I mean, the patent is not so that I'm going to stop other people from doing something. I don't think that's the way almost anybody looks at it these days. I think the patent is more to make sure that other people don't stop you from doing what you're doing,
Yeah, yeah,
and you have other ways to do it also. I think patents can
Right.
sometimes be over. Yeah, I think people can get distracted. They also slow you down
True.
generally to try to do those things. You can do disclosures in better ways to make sure that, I mean, there is public proof that you have done something.
Yeah.
You can publish a paper, you can publish a blog. There are other good ways to make sure you have timely disclosures where other people are not able to go after you.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah.
But you can also file patents. I mean, absolutely.
I think as long as you see IP in India versus US is of course very different.
Right.
There the focus on IP is like actually quite big.
Yeah. No, I mean, now we have US VCs also. The same
Yeah.
approach as same approach.
Same approach. Do they say anything different, or do you think this sector is like that, where
Maybe
IP
the
is not?
robotics might be little more, maybe see biotech, etc.
Yeah,
Also, it depends. See, sometimes you actually have a patent which is like you can defend, and you
correct.
will have an army of lawyers trying
Yeah,
to stop everybody.
yeah,
But many engineering things you can do in one way, and you can do in another way, and you can
yeah,
do
yeah,
in a
yeah,
third way, right?
yeah.
But what you want is that somebody should not patent and stop you from doing it.
True,
That's actually a little more dangerous.
true, true.
The other thing is, I think over time, I see more opportunities now, by the way, than early. In early, you're making the base product. After you've solved the first order problem, because especially when you're in a new field, there are no robots running in those factories. Now that ours are running, now
Yeah,
we see problems which are the second order problems around this. They are way more unobvious. And there you can have this patent mode strategy, for example. Like you can do many small patents, which can be pretty difficult for someone else to circumvent or do all.
yeah.
And those can be more interesting. At least that's what I see in our space. The first product, etc. I mean, unless you lucked out with
Understand.
something very interesting. I also feel that initial products iterate so quickly
Yeah,
that
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know if it is worth going
True.
through the yeah, I mean hassle of patenting them and all that,
Yeah.
because you may, after you deploy, you figure it's the wrong product first of all, right? I mean, mostly that's what happens, and you'll iterate very quickly.
Hmm.
Then all those things are going really going waste.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I think, and then of course there are sectors as well where an IP could be very crucial, like you mentioned, biotech.
Yeah.
In consumer electronics also, it's important. We
Okay.
we have very, I mean, there are competition in different countries building the same sort of a
Right.
product, right? So it
Right.
gives us an edge. But just want to understand from, since you already have US VCs, was there no change as such which they pushed towards IP that focus more on
No,
this and
our
that?
philosophy aligned very well. Actually,
Okay.
they were more aligned than Indian VCs, right? So yeah, our IP philosophy was pretty. It was very practical.
Got it.
Nobody was looking at patents as a way to stop competition. I don't think the industry thinks, and I think Tesla really showed the way. They like say, okay, we'll patent, we promise not to sue anybody. All our patents are open.
Yeah.
I think, especially the Valley industry is pretty much. You can see all the AI stuff is all. I mean, everybody publishes their papers. It's not like Transformer. I mean, Google did it, published it. Now everybody else is making stuff on it, right? So I think a lot of the modern high tech startups, and this is like the cutting edge of startups, right?
Correct.
Google could have decided to. I mean, maybe you can't patent Transformers. Mathematical stuff can't be patented, but they could have kept it as a trade secret, right? They didn't do it.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So I think people are reasonably open about these things. I think as a startup, one should again think of speed. Are you capable of continuous innovation?
Yeah.
Right. The mindset is not that I lucked into something and now I'm going to sit on it and seek rent on it. I don't think that's how a startup can think. You will otherwise anyway you're not going to make it.
Right, right. I
So,
think as a focus area, it should not be like a lot of your time.
no,
Right.
no,
That's true.
no.
You should focus on speed, build fast,
That's right.
launch fast.
That's right.
That's it.
And you can also do this. It's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
nice
yeah.
to have.
Yeah. Got it. Did you employ any methods? So now basically we'll move to the idea prototype section.
Sure.
When you got this idea, when you thought that this is an opportunity which I want to build in, and uh, did you find any ways to test that idea, or did you do any analysis on that? Typically, people don't, but just trying to figure if there is a method to do that.
There is some secret sauce.
Yeah.
I don't think there is anything in my opinion. And I usually, especially B2B is very difficult. See, consumer, you can still do little bit of consumer research because there are lots of them. B2B, it's very tough. Large companies do it. It takes a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
I think startups don't have that luxury. You don't even have that access.
Correct.
And you know, in consumer research, the big problem is everyone lies. Okay, and mostly customers don't know what they want. If you go to customers, usually they want a better version of what they have.
Yeah.
Right? It's a common problem. I mean, it's not something new that I'm telling you. So that's a problem. So I think lot of this conviction on what to build has to come from the intuition that you build. But you have to visit and meet enough people,
True.
right? So that way, I think I was fortunate to be in Bangalore. I mean, my whatever 50, roughly 14, 15 years of experience in Bangalore had not educated me that Bangalore has such a great manufacturing ecosystem.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I was quite astonished. I mean, I was here for such a long time.
Yeah.
I thought I knew Bangalore.
Yeah. Where were you staying in Bangalore before that?
I mean, my office was MG Road, and my
Yeah.
house was near Hebbal, and that's it, right? And I mean, you don't actually you cross HMT maybe in the middle, and that's
But
about
like
it.
I think manufacturing starts beyond Yeshwantpur.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Where we are right
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
And there are other places. There are like 5 good industrial parks. I didn't know.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
there's so
yeah.
many OEMs, right? I mean, you have Toyota's cars are made in Bangalore. Honda Activa is made in Bangalore,
Oh, I didn't know
right?
that.
Yeah. See,
Oh,
there's so many. Volvo construction equipment does stuff in
Volvo I've
Bangalore.
seen.
Volvo buses are done in Bangalore, right? There's so many things, and each OEM has, imagine how much ecosystem,
Yeah,
right? Bosch started in Bangalore in
yeah,
India. There's just HAL is in Bangalore, right? I mean, there's just so
true.
many companies, large companies, and then there's so Bangalore is a very good destination for precision manufacturing,
Hmm.
right? Bangalore has been exporting precision components, has been doing a lot of aerospace because of ISRO and HAL,
Yeah,
right? So it's a great place, and also I mean some things look like Tamil Nadu, but Hosur is like a suburb, right? It's like
true,
Yeshwantpur,
true.
just across the border.
Yeah,
Like as soon as you go into Hosur, you have TVS, Ashok Leland, you're now Ather, Ola,
yeah,
everybody's there. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So this just see we rattled out so many names so
true,
quickly.
true.
So it's huge on
True that.
manufacturing.
Yeah, yeah. I think we were lucky. My master's course was product design,
Ah,
right?
okay.
So we were in ISC,
Right.
very close to like in Yashwantpur.
That's
So
right. That's
we
right.
had to get the prototypes made and things like that. That's when we figured that actually you can build stuff in Bangalore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, it becomes prohibitive if you're at a place where you don't have places like SP Road to get electronics.
Yeah.
You don't have PDA
PDA.
like places to get small CNC machining, laser cutting done.
That's right.
But
Yeah.
true that. I think
Yeah. And
Bangalore's
your
manufacturing is
PC
good.
process, you can get a PCB design done
Yeah,
in 2 day notice.
True.
Right?
Yeah, and they actually have very good pricing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Right.
2 day, 1 day,
Yeah.
5 day.
That's right.
There's
That's
very
right.
good
So,
business on that.
so all that is very. I mean, it's a great place. So
Yeah.
I could go and meet a lot of customers.
Yeah.
Right, and customers were very open. So that's another thing, right? You expect Indian customers to be. That was my prior, and I'm corrected now, right? Indian customers are great in my opinion, but you have to have the right value prop. So this was a problem they wanted to solve, and if you have commodity stuff, they can be like, I mean, yeah, you are now fighting every dollar battle, etc. But if you do something cutting edge, they are very open, eager, and capable of absorbing the technology.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I actually would want to go back to the how the B2B sales work for you also
Sure.
because there's no visibility, at least to me, on that.
Right.
Great. Now, how did you build your first prototype? How did it look like? How long did it take?
Right. The first prototype was, as I said earlier, roughly 10-ish months. It looked like it was like a open, whatever, frame with wires hanging around. I had to walk next to it to make sure it doesn't run away, right? So we didn't have the safety architecture in place, etc. So if it would do anything funny, I'd hit the kill switch and all. And we would test behind that high voltage lab in ISC, if you have seen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a nice vacant place. The professor was very kind enough to allow us to build a small garage there to park our vehicle and test. So it was a dead end, so no thoroughfare traffic was there. So we were able to test in that area. And it was good because initially itself we were testing the ISC roads are broken, which is very good for our product. Okay, so we ended up building a very robust product, and we took inspiration from around us. That was another thing I was quite conscious of. That we should not be an apologetic Indian startup, right? That always keep thinking that, oh, I'm India man, I can't do this, I have less money, I don't have access to that. This. So what is it in India which will make us unique and special? Right? So I want to and then somebody in US or Europe should not be able to copy me because that's not their context.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was that? So I thought, okay, for material movement, right, we would take inspiration from, say, the although it's an Italian product, but popular in India, the Piaggio Ape. Okay, the three-wheeled.
Oh, you call it Ape?
I learned that it is Ape because I researched it. Okay,
Oh.
so it's not ape.
Oh.
It actually means bee. So it's a worker bee, basically,
Oh.
right? It's not. People think it's ape, like it's a strong thing. No, it's a worker bee product, right? So it's the Piaggio Ape, right? So Piaggio Ape or say the TVS XL, right? So we were like, we should do more compact vehicles, etc. And that's why our vehicle is very different. So we were comfortable doing a three-wheeled vehicle. India is the only place where you have successful three-wheeled material movers, and that's what even our first prototype was like that. Even though I mean we have narrowed down our scope, etc. Some of the core foundations did not change, right? So three-wheeled vehicle, focus on maneuverability over payload, right? Those kind of things. So yeah, that's kind of how we did it. Another very contrarian thing we did, which we could do because we had larger seed capital ourselves, was to do the technology using 3D lidars instead of 2D. So everybody was, so 2D lidars, think of them like a laser pointer mounted on a motor. So you're kind of rotating, so you will get like a plane of points. That's why it's 2D. 3D LiDAR has like multiple laser pointers. So you will have like some 32, 64 beams. So you'll see the world in 3D, and you can get a high definition map around you, which was what self-driving cars were using at that time. All industrial robots, even today, 90% are still on 2D LiDARs.
2D.
7 years ago, we started with 3D LiDARs because at that time it was so expensive. I mean, the first LiDARs we bought were like $14,000-$15,000 each. Now, if you now think, people have not done it, we don't know if it worked. If you had 100K in seed, would you bet $30,000 buying two sensors, which are experimental? So that's where just your mindset itself changes, right? But $1 million seed, we said, okay, we'll take a 30K bet, right? And then we took a bet. By the time product comes out, it'll become cheaper, and it did. So some bets played out right. So I think that mindset was there. I knew that I'm not selling. I mean, I also did not have unreasonable expectation that I'm starting it out and I'll reach customers in 1 year. I said, well, that's not going to happen. It'll take me 3 years. That was my expectation.
Oh, you planned that already?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Day one, I thought it'll take me 3 years to get to customers properly. I thought we'll do betas earlier than that, but betas only took 3 years. But at least my expectation was that it'll take 3 years, and we did it roughly in that time. Yeah. Okay, I'd met quite a few other people, right, who would keep thinking 1 year and then it'll take 5 years. But then it's a lot of heartburn, etc. I said no, 3 bolke you'll do it roughly in 3. And anyway, 3 years later, COVID hit. So we were in trouble for a year because of that. But 21, we were able to start on our journey.
How much do you think you spent on the first prototype itself?
First prototype itself, we would have spent close to maybe 400-500K.
Oh.
Yeah.
Got it.
Well, including everything. Not just on the hardware. Hardware might be much lesser, maybe 50 to 100K.
Okay.
Yeah, but we had a big team, right? We very quickly created, we were doing multidisciplinary, right? So we had a mechanical engineering, electronics, software. These 3 teams we created right off the bat.
Got it.
Yeah.
And did you outsource some part of this? Of course, CNC machining and part assembly must be done, but assembly you were doing yourself.
That's from day one. Because there's so much iteration that you have to do around that. So yeah, we always, and we were a little too, I think, ambitious. Initially, we were trying to do many things. We were trying to make our own motor also, which we did later on. But we have also learned over time, things that I learned is that you can co-create with partners also, which is a skill we still are, I think, learning. We have not figured it out fully. But we could, for example, do the motor with a partner and co-create with them. Okay.
But that's happening?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a motor done only for us.
Okay.
But it's done in India.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Right. So there's a Coimbatore motor running in like factories in the US very nicely. Right?
Oh.
So yeah, perfectly. Right. So those edges we are able to create. Controllers are done locally but with partners. Right. So we are, I think co-creation can happen. Like battery pack, we designed our own. Okay. But we got it done, manufactured by obviously someone else. But we had our own design. We had like a swappable battery pack with blind mating, which no robotics company would do.
Oh.
But we did that.
And you did that like over time, or with the first prototype also you thought?
With the first prototype itself.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I figured, I mean, and there I think being in India, we figured what was important for the customers. And Indian customers were very price sensitive and ROI conscious. But what I figured is manufacturing everybody is. It's not as if in US people are not. Okay, so that just mindset helped. So we ended up building a product with features. Our products are not cheaper because Indian labor costs are cheaper, but because they are designed with different sensibilities.
Got it.
Yeah, right. And that sensibility you get because you are in this environment, which our competitors don't have.
Got it. And so your product is comparatively less cost effective.
Yeah, much more cost effective. Yeah, much more cost effective than all competition anywhere, including China.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Since of course you were from a software and product management background, how did you end up doing the first set of hires? Did you have some consultants onboarded to get the first prototype built? How did that work?
No, we didn't. So it was difficult, but again, Bangalore has all the ecosystem. So I just spoke to a lot of people. I've been like a chief recruiter for the company for the longest of times, and I mean, there were also just people who were like, I don't know this, but I'll figure out. And some of those kind of people we took a bet on. But there were also other people. Electronics has been one of the hardest things. But I mean, there are people from Schneider and other places who are very good, Tejas, etc. There's good talent in the ecosystem from these places who really know what they're doing. But there are few of them. It's always difficult to get those people, but you can get them. And similarly, even in other spaces, etc. So we just, I think, learned from scratch, but just had to keep talking to people, keep talking. And what is important? What do you look for? And yeah, I think we had to just do that. For for brief points, we would have had few consultants also, in the sense, yeah, I mean, senior people who would have come on board, helped get like the initial sense of what is important.
Yeah, that's also important.
Yeah. I wouldn't discount that actually. Now that you mentioned, especially in electronics, we had a very senior person initially who worked with us for only a few months. He couldn't contribute. Actually, he was very senior. He couldn't figure out what this startup thing is. But he did help me figure out what does the skill set look like.
Yeah.
So there are different things. I wouldn't call it like we couldn't work for long with him, but I think he helped me learn a lot.
Yeah. I've sort of had that experience when we were hiring for a role, and then a very senior person sort of came up, and I didn't have a lot of background about that role itself. But then when we started interviewing this person, I started learning about the thing more than I knew about it. So that do happen. That does happen.
Yeah.
What would you think is the most complex problem you solved with the product? Problem as in problem in the development side of things. Like, what was the hardest problem to solve when you were building this product?
Right. Okay. I think it's just putting it all together. It's just the integration is non-trivial. Also, convincing vendors to do small volume with high quality. See, initially you don't know when you're doing a prototype.
Yeah.
You don't know whether it's done wrongly or is your design wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
True.
Right? Well, it'll come, it'll not work.
True.
That's the it'll not work, right? That's a given. First thing, it'll come. Now you have to figure out why it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And make it work. Yeah. Now you don't know, did it not work because I made a mistake in the design, or is it because the guy did not realize the design properly? He did not realize the design properly because it's one piece and he doesn't have the right tools, fixture. But if you invest in all that, then maybe you made the wrong thing.
True.
Now, these are very difficult to entangle.
True.
And you have to really figure these things out.
Yeah. I think one gap is that a lot of these companies or vendors who we outsource some projects to, they don't typically have their R&D teams or expertise on R&D. They have more on production. They will have senior folks who know production properly.
That's right.
Supply chain, production, things like that, right?
Correct.
So a lot of times we'll have to go and invest our time and our efforts on R&D to figure what's breaking there.
Yeah.
Which could be considered a mixed problem, which is between both of you.
Yeah.
But then you will only have to solve it.
Of course. I mean, finally you own it, right? I mean, it's your product.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that guy will say, yeah, you told me this, I tried this.
Yeah.
And we were also, I think, we were not so great at tolerances, I will tell you. Right? I mean, those are, I think, these nuances which you only figure out when you actually make stuff. Right? They are not, I mean, on paper, everything looks good.
Yeah.
The tolerances come into question when you have to realize that in real life, right?
Yeah.
So I think tolerances are non-trivial.
Yeah.
People think it's easy, but you really need a lot of experience to say this is important and this is not important.
Yeah.
You may also just say everything should be this much, then you'll not realize it.
True.
Okay, so also then to design something for the manufacturing capability your partner has.
Yeah.
Right, so that DFM is a two-way exercise, right? You have to also figure out, okay, is this machine capable of realizing what I'm giving?
Yeah.
I think all these things kind of become important, and you have to, you have to really figure it out. I mean, we had to do like non-obvious things like the wires are a mess, initially. There's just so many wires, okay? Autonomous, typical electric vehicle, whatever wires you can imagine, autonomous vehicle has 5x sensors.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because there's so many sensors, right? There's no human being.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's way more wires than a typical electric vehicle. And then we figured at low volume, getting good quality wire harnesses was such a big pain. We started making it ourselves. So I now have a small wire harness making unit in-house.
Wow. Nice.
Okay, but if you would have asked me initially, would I have done wire harnesses? I would have said, no way, that's not something I'm looking to. But you have to solve this problem to solve this problem.
Agree. I think a lot of times what we do is end up building so many products throughout the journey of developing the idea to product, prototype to product, that each of that product itself could be a business.
Yeah,
right?
Easily. I think so. And then you have to not get distracted
Yeah,
because
yeah.
enough our customers started saying, "Can you do my wire harness
Yeah,
also?"
yeah,
I
yeah.
got tempted also,
Yeah.
but we are saying, "Okay, boss, I will stay away from that."
True, true, true.
Because we would do our main business, but we had to do it to ensure quality and the because most common thing which will happen is koi wire nikal aayegi, right? And then
Got it.
obviously things are not working. Then you don't know whether is it a loose wire or is there some other problem.
Got it.
So your debugging etc. becomes so difficult.
Yeah.
But once we did this, it really helped. We had a lot of these, I mean, basic issues disappeared once we created a unit ourselves.
Got it.
Yeah. And we did it when we had no money. During pandemic, we did this ourselves. I mean, yeah.
And since, of course, your work is going to be very hands-on, the team, how did COVID affect the business?
Oh, hugely. But we were lucky. We were, especially on mechanical side, we were on a cloud software from day one. At that time, a lot of people said, "Why are you doing cloud for CAD, etc.?" And I didn't have a good answer. I said, "Easy for collaboration." But during COVID, it proved to be a boon. We were so used to doing all CADs on cloud with Onshape, and that I mean, we were just able to iterate on mechanical designs over Zoom calls.
Oh, nice. Got it. But the factories were then like completely shut at the time.
Yeah, so you had to be a little jugadu in the sense that we immediately pivoted to saying, okay, we'll run it in a hospital. Okay, yeah. So during COVID, we actually made a version of the robot which we ran in Victoria Hospital in the COVID ward.
Huh.
Now, yeah, because you have to do something, yeah. I mean, otherwise you'll completely shut down. So we immediately were able to get permission because we were working for COVID.
Very
We
nice.
got permission to open the place also.
Very nice.
We had a real use case that the team could keep working. So we could keep making progress on the product because we had it was completely different use case, but we could keep making progress on making the robot.
Oh, good.
And we made a lot of progress during COVID. Okay. One of the most productive times in the company. I think everybody was also like peak productivity. You couldn't get out of home. Company's survival was at risk. So everybody gave their best during COVID in the company.
Oh, wow, that's a fun story.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
The most difficult thing I would have done during that time was convince a telecom player to put a tower next to Victoria Hospital so that our vehicle's 4G SIM could get a good signal inside the hospital.
And that happened.
That happened.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Oh, you can actually
Over phone, I couldn't go anywhere. Nothing. Over phone, I could convince a telecom company to put a tower for free.
Wow.
Next to Victoria
how
Hospital.
Does that happen?
I don't know, but I made that happen.
I'll get some details separately.
And because we couldn't go in, right? So our team also figured out how to do remote deployment. But then I can't do remote deployment because there's no Wi-Fi there, right? In a hospital, I can't ask them to deploy Wi-Fi. And you know, all hospitals actually have bad net. When you get a phone call, you typically go outside the hospital and say hello, hello, hello. Now, if that is not happening, obviously your robot's not able to talk over 4G also.
Yeah.
But they actually put a tower inside the campus, which then our robots could catch and we could do the deployment.
Oh, wow, very nice.
Yeah.
No, that's a very good night. I mean, very unusual solution. You never.
Yeah, you never know how things
Yeah.
will get solved, right? Somebody would have thought, okay, I don't know, put a network or something. I said, no, yeah, we'll just get the right tower in place.
Oh, very good. I'll ask about that separately with you. How did that work out? I want to get that at my house.
I think this was because COVID was such a special time.
Yeah.
That people were really going out of the way to see if they could contribute. I think that's why it happened.
Oh, wow, very nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very nice. So, when did you realize that the product is ready to deploy? How did that look like? How did you decide that, okay, this is what's going to my customers?
Yeah. So, the first product we got out to the customer was in 2020, just before. So, we deployed it in like February, and March was lockdown, as you can believe it, right? So, we had an order in like 29 August, September also from one of the companies, like an email confirmation which didn't translate. There was a time when this BS6 norm happened. There was like a sudden downturn in automotive, and suddenly automotive industry like decided we are not doing this anymore. But then we found another customer which was a very tough use case, and we were avoiding that customer. But then we said, okay, we'll go for it. Yeah, I mean, it's tough, but that's what I think some of the tough opportunities are available to startups much more easily, right? In that sense. So we took it. As soon as we deployed, we made it run in like roughly a month or so. As soon as it started running, lockdown happened. But during that one month, we clearly figured that it is the wrong product.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay, I mean, it was, see, the thing is, we had a product for prototype which we had tested, demoed, etc. It had done well in demos, and we we had figured the use case, which was pulling trolleys and all that, but it was a very bulky product, first of all, and we were still hedging also. We were hedging between carrying and pulling.
Okay.
We're like, okay, so we don't know. I mean, will we get some carrying kind of payloads? Will we get some pulling kind of But by the time we deployed, it was very clear that it was a pulling robot, and all the carrying part on that robot was completely a waste of real estate. It was become a very huge product, and also within factories, space was at a premium. So we were supposedly about maneuverability, but even then the product was very bulky. Battery was very large. Changing the battery, it was a swappable battery, but huge battery. Okay, it was not a consumer grade swappable battery. You had to use a trolley to swap the battery, etc. All friction, in my opinion, right? I mean, and concept of, I think, friction is very important in product adoption. Usually, I think if it was COVID was not there, I would have still sold maybe another 5 of those robots and said, okay, let's take feedback from 5 places. Suddenly, we didn't have that luxury, unfortunately. I had to just go with the intuition. There was no confirmation. Okay, what we learned from that first deployment in the 45 days, we completely redesigned the product, ground up. Okay, tested that redesign first in the hospital bot in a smaller form factor. It worked.
Okay.
Then scaled that up to the industrial scale, and there were enough issues there, which are maybe details. I mean, firstly, we created a hub motor based design, which was again a novel thing. No robot worked on hub motors. Okay, they all use geared motors, etc. And we did it on a hub motor. In hub motor, we didn't have the right torque. So
what was the advantage?
direct drive. So you have fewer parts. Okay, and you can do a more compact form factor because you don't have the axle to do things. There's no gear. There's no gearing. Right, so that was the advantage. You just are a simpler drivetrain and much more compact. And we did that, and then we figured that the right spec that we needed was simply not available. And then we had to. I found through somebody this contact in Coimbatore who was willing to work with us, customize a motor. In 3 months, we customized that motor. This is all during COVID. Okay, never met the guy till now, right? But we got the right motor. We iterated on the design only over phone and WhatsApp. Okay, but it worked. It worked actually. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So there's a lot of challenges, but we got what you now see behind you, right? Which is the very compact 1-ton puller, and it was not on too many data points, right? But I had a lot of data points from past and a real product working in one factory. Had to combine that and say this looks right, and it worked. I mean, now we have more than 100 of these running across the world, so we know that we got it right.
Yeah.
Right? But initially, you don't know, right? I mean, there is this, so then the same customer placed the second order.
I think there's always this confusion wherein you're not sure whether a product is customer ready or not.
Yeah.
Right? But then you deploy certain units and then only you'll figure it out.
Yeah. So I always believe that you have to deploy as soon as you.
Yeah.
Without deploying, there's only so much you can learn in the lab.
Correct.
It has to go to customers.
Correct.
But it will not be fully ready.
Yeah.
Now, for us, I mean, the main thing was on some facts, you can't be half ready, like safety.
Right.
So safety, like no compromise, right? So we were like, okay, safety, we are not going to take any chances at all. But on all other things, little bit of reliability, the battery needs like it needed a trolley to change. It's okay, right? So you will do all other appendages or little bit of imperfections are okay. If your seam of your panels is not coming out right, it's okay. Let it go.
Got it.
Okay.
Are there any certifications related to?
There are, and we took it. So there we did not again take a lot of shortcuts, etc. The first product we did deploy. I mean, but we started looking at certifications even then.
Yeah.
We said, okay, what is in my opinion more important? It should be safe.
Right.
Whether somebody has written on it or not, but we got that also.
Yeah.
I mean, over the next few months, etc. But we really had so that's something I noticed in robotics. Many people worry about the safety standard much after they have like fully done the product.
Right.
We started looking at it while we were doing the development.
Right.
Okay, and we had a very senior person look at it.
Right.
So that was another thing. I think in our team there was a very good mix of very senior people who had experience in other things. Like the person who was looking at this had worked on the Iridium project. in the 90s, the
Okay.
satellite constellation project,
Oh,
etc. Very senior guy, right? And I said, at least he understands the importance of standard safety, and I requested him, and he was looking at this problem,
oh, nice.
right? So we had like a very good mix of very young folks, but also many very senior folks who were excited about the project and wanted to work like individual contributors, not like managers.
Got it. No, no, that's helpful. Then, a product for a B2B setup, wherein you'll wait for orders. Typically, how does that work? You reach out to someone saying that we have this offering, this saves you this much time and effort and all those things. How long does it take for actual testing, deployment, uh, and conversion?
Right. It so for us it has taken much lesser than usual times in this market, but there is also an adoption curve typically. So usually, or in manufacturing specifically, it's a conservative industry
Yeah,
at its core. Within manufacturing, we focus lot on automotive, which in manufacturing is an early adopter, but overall the industry is conservative, right? So initially, although the product has not changed so much, but we had to spend a lot of time with a customer to prove that the product is good, right? So the first 12 to 18 months we had like 2 3 customers.
got it. And
After that, the fourth customer said, okay, this guy is using you for the last 18 months, then I can too.
got it.
Then the fourth guy also says, okay, now right? I mean, not everybody is trying to take you through the full assurance cycle, so to speak, right? They will borrow assurance from a peer in
Right.
the industry.
Right.
I think that clearly did happen. But typically, our sales cycle involves obviously pitching to the right people, doing a demo, and then it really helped that we were doing a RAS model, a robotics as a service. So you don't have to buy.
Yeah.
I think that was
That-
something
yeah,
we
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
do earlier. And we could do it once you got funded, frankly. It was difficult to do this
Otherwise.
without proper funding.
Yeah.
So we got funded in 2021. Since then, we started offering the RAS model,
Got it.
robotics as a service. That really helped because we could tell people, okay, take it for 2 months.
Hmm.
Doesn't work, I'll take it back.
Hmm.
Right? And
Nice.
that made the risk, etc.,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
much
yeah.
less for people to adopt.
True.
Yeah, and then 2 months will become 6, then they'll become 12, then they'll become a 3-year contract.
And in this field, who would you really reach out to, or who would be the decision maker to purchase a product like this?
So that's another thing. When you're in a very early industry, the decision maker is not so clear. Because right now it is not so clear who is the owner of these robots
Right.
in that
so,
factory also.
Yeah. So who should you reach out to?
Yeah,
That's
so
the challenge, right?
it can typically be either the automation team, sometimes it is the manufacturing engineering team,
Okay.
it could be the production team, right? Or there are some places there's a special projects team which take up things which no one else is taking up,
Okay.
right? So there are these 3 4 actors
Got it.
who will typically be the right kind of people.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. They already have certain teams for getting special things
Oh yeah,
as well.
yeah,
Very nice.
absolutely.
Nice. When you were building your first prototype, how many people did you hire? What was the team size at that time?
We're roughly fluctuating between 25 and 30.
25 and 30.
Yeah.
All, like, how was the split?
Yeah,
Software, mechanical?
Yeah, software,
electrical?
mechanical, electronics.
Hmm.
I would say we have always been roughly 50% software.
Okay.
The software is still where
Yeah.
the meat of the stuff and innovation and we have done original algorithms for localization, for example. Right, so we built the full stack ground up, by the way, ourselves,
Okay.
even on software.
Got it.
Right, so software is still the largest piece where you innovate, but you do it in a way. Okay, for this algorithm, if this is the thing, I mean, you have like a little bit of jugalbandi between different teams, right? Where you have to align the mechanical design and the algorithm,
Yeah.
and you do that.
Got it. And between the mechanical and electronics?
Electronics is more enabling, like a glue team in that sense, I would say, but very important glue. Without that, nothing works, right? What we figured is, I mean, you could say, yeah, this is the mechanical design, this is the software, but they were not able to talk to each other
Yeah.
without the electronics team.
Yeah.
So a lot of your safety is because of that. Your safety architecture, your power architecture, sensor fusion, so much of compliance around thermal,
Yeah.
around robustness generally, protection with dust, heat, all those kind of things, fusing sensors, all that comes from the electronics team. And you can do like original interesting stuff because you control the electronics of the system, where you would say, could I make this happen? And electronics team is like super critical in making that happen.
Hmm. And how many people are there now totally?
Engineering team would be roughly 60-ish people.
60.
Yeah.
Got it.
And then we have, obviously we are a larger team otherwise, right? The sales, and we have an office in Detroit,
Oh, acha.
where we have around 8 people. We have a couple of people in Thailand. They work with a partner. Their Toyota Susho is our sales partner.
Oh.
So we work in their office
Nice.
in Thailand. And we have a couple of partners. We have one partner in Vietnam. We have a couple of partners in Mexico.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. And then we have our own service team,
Right.
also, and the assembly production team also.
So if anything happens to the bot at a factory
Yeah.
location, the service team will go and fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are multiple layers. I mean, there may be a remote operations team which may monitor the robot. Maybe they can solve it. The local operators in the factory may be able to diagnose and solve it also.
Yeah.
If those two cannot do it, then the service team will get involved.
Got it. So let's move to your investment or fundraising journey.
Sure.
How did that start? You mentioned the first $1 million were put by you. Then how did Bloom come into the picture? And then how did it go from there?
Right. So before that, I mean, seed round happened, by the way, with Village Global in US. So we had a seed institutional investor also, and they were very nice. We got introduced through another founder. They over a few phone calls, they said, "This looks good. We'll put a check in this company."
Okay.
Yeah. So that was pretty nice. And around that, then I got confidence to get more angel.
And when was this?
This was 2018, if I'm
Okay.
not wrong.
17 you started and 18 you got this.
18 October, November,
Got it.
right? Roughly, yeah, whatever, 18, 20 months
Okay.
into it. We did like a seed round, and then we got other angels. So it was like a convert. We did an unpriced convertible note
Got it.
in which I kept raising money from friends. Now that somebody did it, it was good. One institutional guy did it, then you could take on the same terms
Got it.
many more. It's like a seed.
Right. So, but you had the prototype built by this time.
Yeah. So I did not also want to take external money till I knew that I could deliver something. So by March, April, we had a prototype running, and we had a better prototype running by the time this money came. Right, like that actually had covers, and you did not have to run along with it, etc. Right, so we could take it out. We had videos out, and we were quite early, right? So our videos went viral.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, doing this kind of stuff. So we had like public videos showing our vehicle running in like a go-karting place in Orion Mall, in other places, right? So we had good videos of
Nice.
what we had running around. So that was useful. So people could actually see something and say, okay, you have built something, and we could do a seed round. And I also had confidence in asking a lot of friends, ex-colleagues, etc. They started participating in the
Got it.
angel round. So we kept doing that angel round for longer than I had planned. We were thinking we'll do a priced round very quickly, but that was, I mean, a lot of VCs were talking to us, but nothing was happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you think changed then all of a
When
sudden?
it happened,
Yeah.
oh, clearly they're a customer. So
Okay.
till we had a customer, it didn't happen. So we had a customer. So we got a customer. I mean, at that time, Bloom was talking to us at that time also, but then COVID hit.
Ah.
But then, I mean, COVID was kind of there. The same customer gave us a repeat order.
Okay. Nice.
Okay, that is now a clear sign, right? I mean, it's not like we got another bakra, so to speak. No, I mean, the customer obviously is getting value, and they said, "I'll buy one more." So Bloom, I mean, I would send updates regularly, etc. Bloom, as soon as Bloom saw repeat order, they said, "Let's do it."
Nice.
Very clearly. So they're early stage, right? So they do realize what are early stage signs. They're not trying to take very late stage signs or something. They said,
Got it.
okay, a customer giving repeat order is a clear sign. They just went and we were in touch with other people. Now in rounds, I mean, as soon as somebody says yes, then someone else will join
Yeah,
in,
yeah,
etc. All that will happen. So Xfinity became a co-lead. They were also already talking, but yeah, I mean, they were kind of little, I would say, behind Bloom in their conviction. But as soon as Bloom said yes, Xfinity also said yeah. They became a co-lead actually,
Got it.
right? So we had a co-lead. The round size became bigger. Suddenly, that was useful.
How much was that round?
That was around 3.5 million.
Okay.
Yeah, so we call it like a pre-series A.
Right.
And then there was a smaller fund called MFV in the US who had been in touch with us for a very long. They were so Karthi, who runs MFV. I knew him from long ago also. He was in Neve. One of my customers had him as a VC.
Okay.
But he had come to see what we were doing when our prototype was on jacks. It was not even running on the vehicle. But he was excited that somebody in India is trying to do this. He really liked it. He's a very good deep tech VC. And he had been in touch. But then when the round was happening after like what, 3 years, right? 4 years roughly. And he said, oh, okay, I know you anyways, and I know what you are doing. You have reached this stage. He participated also.
Oh,
It
nice.
was very nice actually.
And that was from the US.
That was from the US.
Got it. And what was the idea behind raising this capital? You wanted to move forward with building more inventory?
Yeah, I mean, we could now do a go-to-market, right? So we had to like hire a sales guy or build a sales team, actually figure out manufacturing if we could. By the time I had not figured out what was manufacturing going to be at that stage, but we had to do all those things. So that was the idea to raise that round, and we had reached a stage where I mean, personal capital couldn't have kept us running for sure. I mean, or angel. So we raised this money and we were able to go to customers. Immediately we were able to offer RAS. It made a difference.
So that was right after the pre-series.
As soon as we raised that money, we could offer RAS in the market.
But you sense that there is a requirement like this,
and
hesitation because of which people are not sort of.
I could figure. I mean, it basically made the deal a no-brainer. And I said, of course, my job is to make the deal a no-brainer, right, for the customer.
Oh, nice. That's a good model then.
Yeah.
Earlier, you used to sell your machine.
No, earlier, I mean, we had only sold to 2 people till then. But yeah, but that was how we were trying to sell.
Okay.
Right now, somebody has to trust a startup and buy. And we could always see, I mean, even established brand robots, right? You go around factories, right? In the storeroom, there will be some robots kept. Which have been bought and they're just lying on the side.
Correct.
So everybody has burned their fingers buying robots.
Correct.
Now, last thing they want to do is burn their fingers buying a starter's robots, which they don't trust. Already they are burning their fingers, right? So, but we found those to be good customers. What those large brand robots couldn't do, we would do it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Nice. And then you also raised your Series A recently.
Yeah. Then now 1 year. So last year we raised our Series A with True Ventures, and Athira also from India participated in it. And the existing guys all participated.
Got it.
But True led the round, and True is like a proper valley kind of a VC, and we are their first India investment. So that happened because MFE introduced us to True.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. So that's how that worked out. So it's very useful to have investors in a particular geography because you are not part of that ecosystem if you are in India.
Yeah. True has been, of course, behind the likes of Fitbit, right?
And so they've generally done hardware, but just in autonomous, right? They have an autonomous a lawn mowing company, autonomous hospital robot, autonomous cleaning robot, autonomous construction robot. We are autonomous factory. Five robotics company itself. So they clearly had a thesis of autonomy in B2B.
Yeah.
Okay, and purpose-built robots, etc. So we just matched their thesis very well.
Nice.
And it was, I mean, it was not easy to raise the fund. I was talking to a lot of VCs, but with True, the thesis matched, and it just didn't take any time.
Got it. Oh, very good. Yeah. And now you are looking at US as one of your largest markets anyway.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it.
That was always the idea. By the way. Because I do think that if you are doing a deep tech company, I mean, India is an interesting place to do things and all that, but as a very large country, but a very small market.
Yeah.
Finally, I mean, large part of the country is very poor. So the market size of India for all of these things, so you can't amortize your R&D in India. But India can be an interesting market. You can amortize your sales cost in India. India sales cost you can get from India.
Yeah.
Right? US can amortize your US sales and R&D.
True. And do you think this also makes a difference that of course the labor cost in India is much cheaper? The problem is not as large in India as it is in the US.
The problem is, you could say the problem is not as large. That is true for other reasons also. Like US is a larger market first of
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
Okay, I mean as we discussed, right? The
Right.
manufacturing segment itself is bigger. Also, ROI is more difficult in India.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So in dollar terms, also it becomes a smaller market. See, you may deploy more number of robots, but we can't charge as much for those robots in India.
Yeah.
So
Got it.
so your volumes might be similarish, maybe not as like they may be 3x less than US, but suddenly you will be 15x smaller in terms of value.
Oh, so you have different models for
Yeah,
India
yeah,
and
our
US.
pricing is different in US and India.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got it. Oh, that's also something which have to factor in. Okay.
yeah.
Got it. But when you compete with prices of your other, let's say, competitors, are you still the most cost effective that
Yeah,
way? Yeah? Oh,
absolutely.
oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Now we'll move to the building aspect.
Sure.
We already did cover how the first prototype looked like, but then we'll go slightly granular on how exactly what happened and which sort of consultants you reached out to. How did you reach out to them? The initial team when you were building, what worked, what didn't work. Did you find the right talent, or you had to struggle to get that? And then partner selection, all those things.
Sure. So, so consultants. I mean, first thing by the way I tried is I thought I'll find a kind of a partner who could build the vehicle for us.
Yeah.
So we would do like just simple prototypes ourselves to figure out the design. Once
Yeah.
we figure out the design, I'll find a very good partner who will just make the whole vehicle
Yeah.
for us. Just did not work. I tried a lot initially, and then we said, okay, we'll just do it ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, there were no such. This is like some whatever golden deer, which doesn't exist.
True.
Okay, so that didn't happen. Because a lot of people who do these also, like there are people who make prototype vehicles, etc. By the way, in India there are quite a few because they will do these prototype vehicles for automotive, which go in these exhibitions, etc. See, these exhibition prototype vehicles are not done in-house by companies. These are all done by partners.
Okay.
But they don't run. They only stand. Right? Now you need a product which will actually go and perform, and you are trying to do a PMF journey with that product. So that part doesn't work, right? It's not just some eye candy that you are trying to put in exhibitions. So I think there's a lot of talent in India which does that kind of work. So initially I got confused. I thought, okay, this guy is doing like a large car or a three-wheeler. Maybe he can do my vehicle also, but we couldn't. And I also couldn't understand like how much of the skill was from the OEM, which was giving the work versus the design partner.
Okay.
And I think some of it may also be to do with the fact that what is your outsourcing maturity?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
As a startup, your outsourcing maturity is very bad.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't even know what you're making.
True,
You're
true.
still trying to learn,
Yeah.
and you will give bad specs. You will not know how to manage the partner. You will not know how to guide them.
Yeah.
So those things are also important. So I don't want to just blame that vendors are bad. I mean, we also don't know how to manage those vendors, right?
True.
So let's be
Agreed.
honest about it.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
Agreed.
So
I mean, I think as we discussed, R&D is your headache.
yeah,
That's not the vendor's headache.
It's
That's
not
not
the-
the
yeah,
CM's headache.
yeah.
So that's always going to remain true.
correct.
But do you think that you will be in a stage sometime when you will be outsourcing this?
Now I've figured out, by the way, that robotics is not a very high volume industry. Right? You're talking of even at scale, you're talking of units in thousands per annum.
Okay.
They are not hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
So I think when they are in that range and you are constantly innovating, so it's not as if you have figured something out and you give it off because you're now working on the next version. You're doing continuous kaizens to improve the thing. So you're always in a place where your product is in very high active development.
Got it.
Right. So we feel now I'm also become very comfortable because now we do it ourselves.
Yeah.
I think I can manage that scale.
Right.
Right. So I think that comfort has come.
Yeah.
I think we'll just do it ourselves.
Yeah. No, makes sense. If you're still, of course, continuously iterating and the volume is not as large, then of course,
Yeah.
it may not make sense for a CM to do it anyway.
That's right. We
and
did
then-
explore, by the way. We spoke to like really big CMs, etc. also. But I think we are able to innovate much faster
Yeah.
by keeping it in house.
Right. So I think that the reason why we were able to iterate a lot in our journey building the ring was that everything was in house, right? And then we tried to control the production also as much as we can.
Yeah.
So and while you go for production, and of course you are almost can never say or confirm that this is going to be my shippable product.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
have to
It's a
decide.
continuous journey.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
have to decide. Okay, now this is something which I can start with,
yeah,
and then let's see even if this evolves over time. So that's there, and the R&D just keeps going
yeah.
till you've shipped the 100 products, 1,000 products, depending on what category you are in,
That's right.
and then you'll achieve stability, and then you can probably go to a CM and say, okay,
Yeah, yeah, when everything is kind of fixed, and then again, right, with these volumes, I don't know if the CM overheads make
correct.
sense. You've kind of thrown it over the
Yeah, yeah,
wall, and if there is an issue, then you also need CM management expertise
yeah, yeah,
at your end.
yeah.
So it's not as if that thing comes without a cost.
True, and of course, for you, the space is also a large thing, right? You have to, if you have to assemble it yourself, you've set up this factory,
Correct.
and you have plans to build stuff in house as well, and you see that
That's right.
happening
That's
for the
right.
few years as well. Too.
That's right.
Got it. Then yeah, on since you are like completely B2B, do you see this issue of different customers asking you to customize things differently, and how do you try to manage that?
Yeah. No, it's a constant struggle. So I understand B2B and I understand the challenge of that. Right? So we don't do it.
Okay.
Okay, we just don't do it. I mean, there's a lot of money to be made, by the way, customizing. It's not like customization is something that you have to do for free very often. But I think it's a hard call when you are a young startup to say no to customers.
Yeah.
Right? But it's helpful to be a little balding founder who can go and tell the customer, boss, I'm not going to do it. Okay, so yeah, so we don't do it. So we qualify very hard initially itself. That is the use case a fit for our product or not? Right, so we don't think anything is fair game. I've gotten an opportunity, that means I must do it. No, first thing we do is qualify and qualify hard.
Got
So we don't want to change. So all the 100 robots that are out there are identical.
Oh, very nice. But then, was it because when you started designing, you explored different opportunities or different applications of it, and then you ensured that this design of this bot should be able to cater to all these applications?
Enough applications. You can't do all.
Yeah.
So you have to be very careful where you say, okay, I can do these set, and this is good enough for me. Okay, and I think that's the challenging part on where do you say this is enough for me, and when you're qualifying out, especially initially, you will not have confidence. Oh, will I get another opportunity? But over time, everybody gets so that early part is not easy. Say your first two opportunities come, which are both different. Now you will be like, did I make a mistake saying no to this? Did I make a mistake in my? So there's always this self-doubt, and you have to deal with it. And then you just say, well, I'm not going to get rattled till I get first 15. Then we'll see. And then your intuition starts building when you start trusting your intuition when out of 15, 10 were good. Then you say, okay, I took the right decisions. Right? But if you start doubting yourself on 1, 2, 3, I mean, the first 3 or 4 may be all different, right?
Yeah.
Right? You don't know. But you have to have a good enough number, and then you have to have the confidence that you can generate 15 leads.
True.
Both are needed, right?
Yeah.
So I think we got those basics right. It helped that I've been in business for some time. Yeah. So these are subtle things which are easy to get wrong.
Got it. And then just coming back to the building bit, started in 2017. 10 months you took to build the prototype, which is actually quite fast. Then you spent the next 2-3 years in building from prototype to product. How did that journey look like? What do you think changed? Why do you think it took this long?
Right? Yeah. So we had 2018 we had like a initial prototype which we call like a P0 working, right? So the first prototype we called it like the P0, right? So P0 was just like a bunch of metal with dangling wires, right? So that was, I mean, we just proved to ourselves that we can put together something which can run autonomously for like some 20 meters. Okay, that was it. But our P1 was, I think, reasonably good. And then the P2 kind of we shipped to the customer, right? Or a P2 and a half or whatever, right? There was one P1.5 which we didn't make, whatever, right? So we had like this multiple versions that we did. And that's what took time. I mean, we kept solving one problem after the other. And trying to, I mean, getting from somewhere where you have like something which works for a few meters in a controlled environment with engineers around it versus putting it in a real factory. I think there's a lot of difference. So I think that's the so from 2018 to roughly 2019. So another 18 months is all it took, by the way. So that product was ready, right? By that time, that 2019, we actually had the order, which didn't go through with a large tier one, by the way. And then we took this other order, which was more challenging. And there, because this was this, we took the PO, made the vehicle. We were in that, right? We couldn't build in advance as a startup, and we didn't have a RAS model, right? Also, we didn't know it's the right product, right? We didn't want to build inventory,
Right.
So, and the first product, we took the PO just to make the product and deliver, took us like 4 months.
Okay.
Right now we would make 20 robots in a month or 25. At that time, the first robot that we had to deliver, because there were also, once you start making a robot which had to be delivered, a lot of, oh, this is not done, that is not done.
Yeah. I think that's the reason why you should launch fast,
Yeah,
because otherwise the R&D never stops.
we just couldn't figure out so many of these. I mean, some of the parts came like a day before we were shipping. Okay. Like this had not happened, that had not happened. We had forgotten to design the charger properly. Okay. And then the charger we made into a full metal cage, so it couldn't be Wi-Fi. No signal went out.
Oh, nice.
Right. All kinds of stuff happened with that first product. But yeah, I mean, but we got it out, and
Got it. Any specific challenge you felt you've been through during that journey, which you think you think that typically for anyone starting out, they will have to spend at least 2-3 years to get to the final product which can be deployed, right?
I think the space does matter, in my opinion.
Right. I mean, in your space only.
In our space, I think it will take. I don't think it is easy in our space to work with doing B2B with Fortune 500.
Yeah.
Is another level of. You could probably do B2B with SMB faster. So the space also you have to dissect in many more layers. Even in B2B, there are easier, lower hanging fruits.
Got it.
But the price of this is much better also.
Yeah.
Right? If you are able to get to Fortune 500 customers, because I do believe, right, if you're really first in the space, then why wouldn't I go to the largest customers out there? Okay, so that's the thing.
Got it.
But in our case, I'm just thinking, is the customer adoption? Well, it took us that time to make the product also.
Yeah.
That's also there. It just took us time. Some of it was, we were completely green. Now, I would say, if somebody is starting today in 2024, in last 7 years, like now, I have 7 years experience doing this, right?
Yeah.
There are a lot of people in the ecosystem who have 6-7 years experience doing this.
Correct.
When in 2017, you couldn't find somebody with 7 years experience doing this.
Now you could be a consultant to that person.
Yeah, so I mean, there are a lot of startup founders who talk to me, for example, right? They would get, there are also just, I mean, you would have your first engineers with at least 3-4 years of experience making this kind of stuff. We had no such luxury in 2017.
True. Yeah, so I think that's one good thing, right? Software, we've had this ecosystem early on, started early on, right?
That's right.
We had mentors, advisors who've done it before and
even investors have seen the journey of multiple startups now, so they also know how to give the right advice, how to evaluate you. Plus, just as I said, talent itself. There's so much more talent with experience of having done this.
Yeah, makes sense. So it's anyways going to be slightly probably faster, assuming of course people don't make similar common mistakes.
Correct. But you can probably shave off definitely a year.
Yeah.
Not too long. The other part is the technology will take less time, but I think product will take longer. So on product, I had an edge, for sure.
Yeah. I think product as well, and you knew the space better. You knew B2B sales.
That's right.
People would take a long time just to figure B2B sales.
That's right.
It's not easy.
It doesn't come. It's not intuitive at all. Because it's a very alien world. Right. I mean, as a consumer, you're always at least a consumer yourself. But in B2B, the biggest difference is your user is never the buyer.
True.
Okay, which, I mean, in consumer can happen with, say, a child's product. I mean, the buyer is sometimes the mother or the father, but in B2B, it's very different dynamic. The guy paying you the money, the guy using the product, the influencer who has to accept, all different actors. Very different ball game.
Any suggestions you'll have for anyone who's getting into a B2B game with no experience?
Yeah, I mean, just hire salespeople who have done it.
Okay. That's a good enough thing.
Don't. Nice. I mean, learning by doing is going to just take a very long time. I did that long time myself, so I regret it that I did it, but I've done it.
Yeah, no. That's a good enough
Yeah.
suggestion. Yeah, nice. Got it. Do you face issues with quality control, things like that, wherein you're dependent on other
Of course.
suppliers?
Yeah.
Does it become a huge challenge, or it's not that big of a problem?
No, no, constant challenge.
Constant challenge.
We have to be constantly at it. So we have an internal QC department, right? Which we do 100% QC of all parts which come to us.
Same.
So you will have to reject, and then sometimes timelines will go wrong, cost can increase, you have to renegotiate with your vendor.
Yeah.
Boss, you don't charge me again for the rework, it's not your fault.
Right.
Whatever, right? This is
And this is majorly mechanical parts or electronics?
mainly mechanical, but electronics also it has happened, but not as much.
Not as much.
Electronic manufacturing is more, I think, more predictable,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it also happens, but you can also see mechanical, right? You can see it easily, fix it easily.
True.
Electronics, when a problem happens, you are really in
Then,
deep shit.
True.
Mostly you have to do it again.
Yeah.
Okay, whereas mechanical stuff often can be reworked or done again. So I think less occurrences, but when it happens, very costly. It takes longer time to figure out.
Yeah. But have you been able to figure some processes which has made it better over time? QC in general, because electronics, I think it's fairly. The tests are comparatively well known.
Sure.
Right? Folks would say, okay, let's run this motor which has come for about 1 hour, should be okay.
Fair.
Right? And in this environment, should be okay.
Correct.
Right? But then what happens with mechanical parts is something which which keeps evolving. With different customers, it's a different requirement.
Yeah. No, also you have to invest in the right gauges. We have a surface table now to do dimensions properly, and these you cannot afford at all stages of a startup. So earlier we couldn't. Now we have a better test lab where we have a lot of these things to test, and it can keep getting better, right? You can have laser based, you can have mechanical gauges, right? It's again a journey. As you can afford more, you can do better quality, by the way.
Yeah.
There is definitely a function of money that you can throw at the problem.
True.
Also, some are just experiential, like having an inspection sheet with right tolerances separately, rather than now you are not trying to check everything. Can you enable your vendors? So there again, sometimes it's a question of money. Can you make jigs for testing and keep them at your vendor's place?
Correct.
Okay, so it's helpful in electronics also. Can you make an electronic jig where you fit a board and all the tests happen?
Yeah.
Your vendor will not have that jig, right?
Yeah.
You'll have to create it.
Yeah.
Now that becomes your R&D team's job.
Yeah.
It's almost like a side project.
Correct.
Where, if your jig is faulty, then you will not test properly.
100%. I think 70-80% of our R&D team's time right now, actually for the past 5-6 months, it's been to somehow make the production more efficient, QC more efficient, because we are scaling production, so that's the priority.
Correct.
So that's definitely there.
Yeah, and no one else other than R&D knows, because you are designing the product, so you have to make its test parameters also that it came out right.
Yeah.
Right, so making test jigs and all is a big task by itself. On the mechanical side, we have created a function now called production engineering, as they call it, or manufacturing engineering, which only specializes in doing this. So the R&D team is not defocused in doing this work.
Yeah.
But there is no such equivalent on the electronics, etc. side. There, the R&D team itself gets involved. Right. So ideally, we should upgrade our skill of our ME team to pick up electronics also, but it's not easy.
Not 100%. Yeah. Got it. And then, do you face any issues in supply chain management? Although I understand your volumes are not as high, but
BOM is complex.
But BOM is complex. Yeah. So do you face challenges in that, import, customs, things like that?
We used to before we had specialists. So now we have a specialist supply chain team. So if there may be problems, they don't come to me.
Okay, and this is in-house.
In-house. Yeah. The people with deep experience handling all of this. And this thing requires experience. Again, you can't. Earlier we were like startup-y, some generalists will handle this also, that also.
Yeah.
But now we have people with 10-15 years experience who have done this and they know their job.
True. I think we have to decide at a certain point in time of your startup, you have to decide when to invest in those experts.
Experts,
Yeah.
You need it.
Yeah. There are some
And I would
functions.
say this is at least an advantage we have in India compared to a US or European team. These skills are very expensive there. Those
True.
startups are not able to afford them.
True.
In India, relatively, they are still affordable
Yeah,
skills,
agree.
and there is no reason not to do it. They will give you an edge over the competitors in US and Europe.
Yeah, 100%. I think one good thing about this is also that uh, you'd assume that these people, with so much experience, would come in a startup and have their own, corporate baggage in a way,
Right.
right? But honestly, that's not the case with manufacturing.
Yeah.
As far as I've seen,
Yeah. Yeah, so far us also, I mean, we have had some issue. I wouldn't say there are no issues with culture, especially because we're in the same. I mean, our design, development, manufacturing, we all work under the same roof practically, right? So little bit. Manufacturing is a little more regimented, but as a robot manufacturer, we are a little better because we're not very high volume, right? So it's not like there is a designated time for breaks or something. So it's a little chill environment. So people like it, but still, I think there is. I would say R&D teams have less discipline compared to what
Correct.
manufacturing has,
100%.
and that's the different culture one needs to handle when both are under the same roof.
True. We hired a senior supply chain, you know, a senior supply chain person some time back, and then he's always talking in jargons. I have to sort of read up on the jargons and understand. Okay, this is what you're saying.
He'll say I have this ABC,
Yeah.
right? Or what? Yeah, of
Yeah, that's
course.
there. But I think part of the journey, and that's the fun.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. I think you've also, if you had to raise again, uh, raise again for the quickest possible deployment of your products, how much would you have raised?
So I don't think the number depends on what I want, right? It's what the market will give.
Yeah, but still, I mean, I don't think you anyways made a wrong assumption in a way in the beginning itself, right?
Yeah.
I think the numbers that you had initially thought about, that
Of
I will
course.
raise $1 million and then
Yeah,
probably.
but that million did not take me all the way through, by the way.
Yeah.
I ended
But-
up putting another 600K on top of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So then, if you had to again replan this,
Yeah. Firstly, I think if I were to do the same thing again, I would probably be a little more efficient because you now have the experience of having done it. But
this is more from a perspective of a new person who's wanting to raise money to build something like this.
Got it. See, and also it's not. I think too much money is also not so. You have to always raise enough money for the next milestone.
Correct.
I would say like a pre-seed seed of 1 million, 2 million is okay. 500,000 can get you in trouble.
Yeah.
In my opinion, you would think you have enough. You will not reach the milestones. Then the next rounds will become difficult.
Yeah.
And then you are fighting the wrong battles.
Yeah.
That's my
2 million to get to a product which is deployable.
Yeah, at least you have opportunity to. You should assume that the mistakes will be made.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? I mean, you can't make a product without making mistakes.
Yeah.
So that's sometimes the place where it won't happen is where sometimes India has this fast copy playbooks where okay, this product is there in the US. I will make a quick one in India because of maybe regulatory arbitrage or something. Then you've in a way outsourced your product management. So you will not make the wrong product because you're copying a spec. Then you can do it. But one has to realize as an organization, you will not create the muscle to make mistakes, which is very, very costly later on.
Yeah.
Because ideally what you want is because this muscle is not easy to make as an organization that, okay, have I made it? Is this mistake right, wrong? What have I learned from this mistake? Now how do I correct it to take the right decision? You have to create this organization muscle. But when you copy a spec, you short circuit the whole process. You will make something quickly, but you will lose on creating this organization muscle.
True. And I think the reason you need those $2 million is also because you can then parallel process a lot of things together, right? Otherwise, you'll serially iterate and then make mistakes. And then.
So the lesser money will not really get you anywhere and you will end up losing it.
Yeah.
So somewhere VCs have to distinguish a little bit and I think they can do it because they always, I mean, the best of the VCs also, even in the US, they make fewer hardware bets than software bets.
100%.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
So your ticket size has to be a little higher on hardware bets compared to software bets. That's the way I think investors should look at it.
Yeah, I don't know. Makes sense. Got it. Any other general suggestions for people who are wanting to get into this business, or any space that you see which is still vacant as an opportunity?
Sure. I mean, overall, by the way, robotics, industrial itself, right? I mean, the opportunities are way more than total supply in the world. So I don't think I don't look at Ati fighting competition. Mostly we are fighting status quo.
Yeah.
We are fighting the limitation of the technology itself. That's what we are fighting against. I mean, any other startup in the space overall helps because they will create more acceptance for the customers. Some more experiment is happening, which you will also learn from.
Yeah.
Because you're not the only person experimenting, right? You will see your competitors and say, oh, that worked, that didn't work. People are watching us and seeing what worked, what didn't work. A lot of people I know have used 3D lidars after looking at us, right? So, I mean, that's the experiment we did. And after that, they have learned from it. So, I think this will happen in the industry.
Yeah.
Across industry. So, I think more, this is still a very early space. It's a hard space though, right? Because of just the nature of what we are doing. But and SMB nobody has touched till date.
True, true, true.
So it's not as if, okay, if few people do Fortune 500, then you can still do SMB, which is even a bigger space.
Yeah.
But again, it has its own challenges. But yeah, but there is huge. I mean, I think there have to be like millions of robots out there. Just, I mean, if you have to just do some first principles thinking, okay, a few million robots in factories is a very reasonable number. All factories are going towards dark factories, right? A few million robots are going to happen.
Yeah.
And I told you, right? Typically, any scaled up company is in thousands of robots. Now, do your math.
Got it. So now we'll go back to the same message, the same sentence you used earlier. What Jensen said, or what
Yeah.
you quoted.
Correct.
Jensen
Yeah,
said.
anything which moves will be autonomous.
Right. So that's the opportunity.
That's the opportunity.
Nice.
There's the opportunity beyond manufacturing, by the way.
Yeah.
Right? You can go to mining, you could go into, I mean, warehousing still has huge opportunities. All toys will be autonomous in the future. Think about it like that. Right? So even consumer,
Yeah.
huge opportunities. Every trolley will be autonomous on some day. I don't know when that day will come, but every shopping cart may be autonomous at some point in time. Everything which moves will be autonomous.
Awesome. No, looking forward to that future. Awesome. Great. I think we've covered most of it. Great. Thank you so much, Saurabh, for sharing your story. I'm sure younger founders will be inspired to build something similar in this space and have learned enough from your experience to build their idea to product journey made simpler and faster. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.